Go! Hey, everybody. Welcome to Murder Hobo Inc.'s Between the Rolls Socium Edition. I'm here tonight with these guys to discuss legends and lore tonight. Yes, is this your first time following us on Murder Hobo? Well, I'm sorry. So, no, thanks for joining us if you're just tuning in. Tonight is our Socium project. Basically, what it is a compilation of certain themes and subjects that we're compiling throughout the year, and then towards the end of the year, we'll put it all together, and it'll just be this one playable module. So we'll see how this goes. Anyway, tonight I am joined by Spencer, Ian, and Frank. And I am David. I'm your host. You can follow us on YouTube, obviously. Like, follow, and subscribe if you'd like. You can also find us we have a Discord server and on Twitter, so you can follow us on Twitter. In the Twitterverse, I am known as D&Devious. Basically, I'm just like another filter for Murder Hobo, just putting stuff out there, anything about D&D, or if you just want to chat, you can follow me on Twitter. Tonight, for the show, we have our sponsors. We have Oddfish Games. They've been our sponsors for a very long time. They've got a couple of things. They've got the RPG with your cat game out. We also have Adventure Sense. We've been pushing Adventure Sense for years, folks, but they're great. They got a scent for just about anything that you can think of for your campaign, including putrid sewers. So just as a disclaimer, we do not advise huffing this, neither does Fish Cave. So we have one incident. Do not follow suit. Look through our archives. I'm sure you'll find it, though. So anyway, how to RPG with your cat is their RPG that they have. They also have a writing system called the Shine system. They also came out with one for, I believe, tabletop RPGs called the Radiance system. Is that correct? Radiance Engine. So that is something to check out. Check out their website. I believe it's oddfishgames.com. They're amazing folks. They've been great sponsors for us, and we're really lucky to have them. Also, our sponsor tonight is Pirate Dog Dice. Yeah, if you need some really... Ooh, boy, that is a new one, Frank.
That is a new one.
If you need some cool dice, hit us up at Pirate Dog Dice. One of our hobos is actually putting those out. She sent me a great D20. She's working on one for Carol, and
It got delayed again.
She's made some great novelty dice too, and all that for Kyle, so it's great. So Pirate Dog Dice, folks. Yeah, you need a new set of dice, and hopefully they roll well. Yeah, we'll hook you up.
What about our cool shit, David?
Okay, yes. If you're interested in Murder Hobo t-shirts, we've got a plethora of them. Seriously, we have a lot. So, you'll find a link. It's tinyurl.com/RPG swag. You can go ahead, follow that link, and it'll take you to our store. You can find anything from t-shirts, shower curtains, skateboards, duvet covers, as Frank says. It's probably just like a throw blanket or something, but
I don't know what a duvet is anyway.
Siri does. Anyway, you can find all kinds of great Murder Hobo merchandise. Holiday seasons are coming, so then make great gifts. So
hey, t-shirts are on sale for like $13 right now.
Yeah, you can't
Flash
beat that.
Sale, 48 hours.
I'm gonna have to hit that.
Get a shitty t-shirt.
Oh man. So yes. So that's pushing our swag. Tonight, let's go ahead and introduce the guys. Let's see. I'm going to start with right below me on the screen. Start with Spencer. Spencer, who are you, my man? Tell me what you're all about.
I'm Spencer. I am just a long-time dungeon master. I've been running this or D&D or some RPG for the past 20 years or so. So it's been quite a while writing mostly my own adventures, modifying other people's stuff. It's a good time. I enjoy it.
Awesome. He's been a great contributor with the Socium project. I mean, we're really lucky to have him on this. Also, next up, we've got Ian. Ian, tell us who you are, what you're doing.
Hello. I'm doing all kinds of things. So I run the podcast Wandering Monster, which every week we do a different live play of an independent TTRPG. So that's Wednesdays at 8:30 Central on Twitch, which is all of our handles are WanmonCast. So that's Twitter at WanmonCast. That's WanmonCast.com. Facebook.com/WanmonCast. Twitch, WanmonCast. That's how you can find us. So I also do freelance writing and editing and game proofreading, anything in the TTRPG life cycle that is not related to making art or layout. I have a hand in. So definitely chewing through the last bit of Zine Quest 4 commissions. So it's been definitely a blast this season.
Nice. Awesome. And last but not least, our fearless leader, Frank. Frank, tell us a little bit about yourself.
You notice that he didn't say that they were really lucky to have me. So
yeah, we're lucky to have him.
I was going to emphasize the least part, but I thought as soon as people heard you talking, you would just figure that part out.
They'd get that figured out. Folks, I write, I stream, I direct. I don't care. I have apathy. Philbar RPG is the Twitter handle that's currently undergoing hate mongering with Twitter, so I'm suspended, so don't even bother for right now. But check us out here at MHobo Inc. I am far less political on that one.
I was going to say, what did you do this time, Frank?
This one, I'm not guilty of. This one, I'm not guilty. The other things, yeah, sure. This one, they're fucking full of it. Anyway, I've been doing this 1,000 years because I'm 900 years old. But yeah, these guys are the ones who make this show happen. I just am the mouthpiece. I am Sauron, ladies and gentlemen. I am the mouthpiece of Sauron. Yeah, I don't know. Check out Adventure Sense. Don't huff it. Find the Kyle video, because as he nearly died live on stream, which was hilarious.
Let's link it. You mention it, link it.
You know what? I will.
Somewhere on the screen, click, and you'll see it. It's going to be floating here.
While you
Put
guys
this in post-editing.
While you guys are doing your stuff tonight, I'm going to go ahead and search that son of a bitch, because watching him choke to death live was hilarious. I'm not kidding. It was hilarious.
You're going to have to put it on a loop, man.
So just lightly underneath your nose. Don't. It's not some backstreet hooker. But that's me, Frank. I don't need the accolades because these guys are the ones that make this show. David, back to you.
Don't let him fool you, folks. Man, he is the backbone of this show anyway. Yeah, so let's kick off tonight our Socium project. We're covering lore and legend. I mean, hell, Dungeons and Dragons has a spell that's basically that. So this is going to be like an interesting chapter in our project that we have. It's basically establishing, not just the lore, the legend, but this can also affect the culture of the games too for those areas as well. So let's start off tonight with, I'll give you a few minutes. Spencer, are you ready? You got some lore? Let's go with lore. Can you tell us a little bit about your project?
If we pull up the map, I don't know if the map's going to be up at all as we're discussing this. So one of the regions I'm in charge of is the Golden Sea. And so for viewers who may not remember or have seen it before, the Golden Sea is a region between kind of the southern water area and Lake Unity. Oh, yay, map.
Yeah, we got it.
Yes, it is entirely made out of grasslands and hills. It is well known as a place for moa, which are flightless birds. Think like really big ostriches. But the main thing is that the only source of water in this region are these large rolling reefs. They are these massive spheres of water that roll along the golden grass and bring water across the region. There aren't any rivers, there aren't any streams, there aren't any lakes that don't get devoured and brought up by these reefs very, very quickly. So The legend is, well, how do these come to be? Well, because this area has been inhospitable with no water sources. It was just as bad as Paradise, the desert to the south, until these reefs came in. So before the sea was connected in Wyvern Pass between Lake Union and this water here to the east, this whole area was just as much as barren desert. Yeah, completely devoid of life. Only the most adapted of travelers and creatures could hope to survive its arid landscape for long. But because of escaping the deserts of Paradise and the slavers therein and the conflicts to the east, a group of refugees fled into this very inhospitable area. They could only march to dehydration, and the people cried out in succor for some sort of salvation. The blessing that was bestowed upon them that they found were these not rains that they were praying for, but instead balls of water rolling towards them to bring them water to allow them to live. These were filled with fish and life from the seas to the south and quenched the parched throats of these refugees. If these aquatic wanderers had been moving before, no one had seen it. The nomadic peoples of the Golden Sea, they were never recorded. So these refugees that eventually came to become the nomads of the Golden Sea were the first people to ever see them. Now, sages have long speculated on whether these fears of where these came from, but the tale speakers, the oral historians of the nomadic peoples of the Golden Sea, speak of a time of turmoil, not just from when they ran away from their homes as refugees, but also deep within the oceans as well. So as the refugees were fleeing war and conflict on lands, the waters of the ocean were thrown into chaos. Deep, deep, deep below the waves, where the tides do not flow and sunlight dares not pass, a great evil sleeps. The reefs were once intrigued by its presence, and they began to spread out along the massive bulk, growing from the warmth of it, from where the water is brighter, warmer, or full of nutrients. And they began to develop a sense of self, a psychic barrier, a way to communicate to each other that this was a safe place to be deep underneath the waves. But one day, that bulk began to stir from its slumber and wake up. Countless colonies were lost in the roil and dust of the very slight shaking, and the assembled reefs began to move and migrate to where they thought they might be safest, to the edge of the water, where the light can finally shine. But once there, predators, things that could eat the reefs, fish with beaks, and other things that could suck them dry, began to feast upon these colonies. And they realized that the shallows were not safe for them either. They had to go somewhere else. And so the reefs decided to move to dry land, but they would die without water, so they brought it with them. So they have now created a home that they themselves can travel with, fleeing from the darkness of the depths into the light's golden rays. They now grow and multiply, splitting in the warmth of Lake Union, and then traversing the Golden Sea back to their old home to gather, communicate, and monitor that which sleeps deep below.
That is cool. I've got a couple questions, though.
Yeah.
Okay. These rolling reefs, they're, like you said, they bring water and life and stuff like that. Now, my question is, are some of the reefs, I mean, this is an obvious question, but I mean, are some freshwater, some saltwater, or how is that working?
They are kind of a mix of both of fresh and salt water. And so as they come from the ocean, they are saltier. And then when they come from Lake Union, they are more fresh. And so the people who use them as water sources have to find a way to kind of desalinate the water in order to make it totally potable, which is why it's still a very inhospitable place to live. The creatures that live in it kind of have to decide, well, which one do they want to stay in? So if they want to live in more fresh water, they have to stay further to the east instead of to the west, or the north instead of the south.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. So yeah, that was a question that was on my mind. I wanted to ask, because I know, like you said, that's a great explanation for it too. So that's awesome. Ian, how about you? What do you have for our lore for tonight?
All right. Well, we can start off in Region S, which is going to be to your west-southwest, just below Kaizen. Give it a little drag. All right. So we'll revisit the Croaky people, whom, for people who may not be familiar, this is a race of frog-like people. So frog hominid-esque things. So we've talked a little bit about life cycle and culture previously, so we'll delve a little bit deeper into lore. So from a cosmological perspective, we're still kind of piecing together little bits of how this world actually came to be, but various cultures have origin myths either of what happened at a great cataclysm or what brought the world together. The people themselves have a history that deals with the coming of their progenitor, basically a giant mother toad, like a surimi toad with all the younglings buried in its back, plummeting from the heavens and embedding itself deep in the volcanic mountainous region that's a little bit cut off by the map. So frogs themselves having a large emphasis on singing and being in this very wet tropical environment, there's not really a ability to have accurate record keeping for things that aren't like permanently etched in stone. And so the most indelible form of culture that could be transmitted over time is through song and through myth and through legend. So as a pivotal part of their life cycle, the people themselves are always immersed in song, whether they themselves are singing internally, reciting their own kinds of mantras or like paeans or just like humming inwardly or outwardly singing. But where that comes to be are two kind of major things that come from that. One of the things upon a birth of these people, when these frogs are spawned, they are spawned just like frogs, how in the deeper parts of these, the volcanic waters in that mountainous chain towards the north of this region, after they're spawned, they incubate in warm waters and then they hatch, and they're divided into various schools that represent what type of positions that they will be filling in the clan. And there are 4 various kind of general catch-all capacities for what functions they're going to serve in their society. And that's based on whether their song is inward or outward, and whether their courage is inward or outward. So where is your sense of perception and truth and knowledge and wisdom about the world? Is that more internal, inward facing, or is it outward facing? And then how do you approach to that? So if you were to have your song be inward facing, but your courage is outward, then you would be what ultimately be a warrior. If your song was inward, but your courage and your courage is inward, then you would be what they would call a friend or like a mystic, which later could be translated more into magic-y type of capacity. If your song is outward and your courage is outward, then you'd be a poet, which are a type of scholarly, relatively speaking, warriors themselves. So kind of a better translation of that into common parlance would be like a skald or something like that, or a more combative bard. And if your song is outward and your strength is inward, then you'd be a wanderer, or kind of like they would translate better to being almost like a leader capacity of that. Part of the interesting parallel of this is not only is there's kind of like typology of personality and role function in civilization for the Croaky, but it also kind of manifests itself in a physical representation of the lore, as there is still some very there is like volcanic and geothermal activity in this area. There's always a little bit of tectonic shifting happening, even on a small degree. Depending on the cycle of the year, there are 4 kind of menhir naturally formed rock-like structures that have over the time been worn by the elements that kind of embody the representation of a warrior, a friend, a poet, and a wanderer. And they are symbolically pushed up the topology towards the top of the mountains where they reside. And over time, they shift and slide back down. And part of that represents the struggles and the triumphs of the clan some people read into it symbolically or mythopoetically, using it as a form of augury, in as much as one would use the Farmer's Almanac if there is the warrior out front and the friend is in the rear, and that might be portents of war or conflict coming in greater cycles. So depending, on the person themselves, they may not actually see that as literal, or as it might just be a concept.
Okay.
I can't think of the word for augury. That's more like
Premonition.
fortune telling. Yes.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking
Fortune telling.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Consult the
divining.
bones.
Omen reading.
yes.
Omen reading. There you go.
See, I like augury because it sounds neat, but that really means like entrails and going through and
I don't understand.
like haruspexy and such.
Yeah. Well, the omen reading could be, reading the stars or the skies or the travels of
Palm
birds.
readers.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
So that's just a little bit of some of the lore and how it both shapes its own, the raising of the people and then the culture themselves, kind of represented in both physical form with these traveling rocks, and then in their loose caste system, as it were.
Yeah, I was going to bring up the caste system because, like with the frog race in Dungeons and Dragons, the caste system is militaristic and almost like plebeian, almost like servant type for the lowest caste, and depending on the color.
Is that from a source book?
No, that's Frank. What's the frog people that we're fighting in Calamity?
Are you thinking of the Slod?
No, it's
no.
I was going to say Slod have.
It's not Gallippi. It's the
No, it's not the Gripply or anything like that. Damn it! I mean, I know it.
yeah. There's three of them, and then the upper echelon, and they're all different colors.
Yeah.
God, what? Yeah, because that was B. That's
there's
Calamity
no
B,
differentiation here by color. They are an egalitarian society, and the caste thing is more of an honorary thing, not something where there is any more or less honor put to one of these roles, but just a recognition of where your strength and personality is, that you can be put in the best place. So it's not a caste, because usually the word caste itself has negative connotations because of our real world execution of it, but this is just more of what traits have you been given by the Great Mother, and how can that benefit one another, and how can I understand you more and honor your song.
So it's like the ASVAB.
Right. So
or
who determines
Myers-Briggs, or actually the Jungian typology would be more of that kind of inspiration for that.
Yeah.
Sorry, I cut you off there, David.
No, that's okay. I was going to ask: is it the mother toad herself, or is it like some kind of shaman or whatever that kind of speaks to one of the young frogs and tells them where their song is, inward, outward?
Part of that is done by observation in the spawning pools. How, when being sung to, while they're going from egg form to tadpole, from tadpole to actually beginning to develop like the limbs to be in that true amphibious state, how they react in that kind of toddler state before they have true kind of sentience, how they react, to both like their own the people, or the clans people that rear the young, and how they interact with one another, and that's kind of how they group them. So from there, they can guide them to more specialized spawning pools where they can get more specialized education that really benefits their unique needs. So they take advantage of the warm waters in this kind of subterranean cavern system in the very kind of north. And that's partly too why, furthermore, those they're kind of represented by almost looks like giant gumdrops on the map. But
the caves.
Where the topology is in the caves is where there are those systems. A lot of them are linked underground by one another, but fed by those same mountains that probably also fuel lots of goblin industry.
Yeah.
Indeed they do.
It's funny because like the imagery itself that I'm getting is like the second season of The Mandalorian with the frog person that they meet in that. So yeah, just the way they acted and how they were transporting their young, the eggs and stuff. It's funny if you haven't seen The Mandalorian. I mean, I'm sure.
I'll have to look that up.
Yeah, just look it up. But it's great.
I
But
like the Mango DeLorean. It's a good car.
yeah, there you go.
Hey, I
All
have a
right, Frank.
question, real
Yeah.
quick. And I'll ask this for Jeff because I'm assuming he's watching and will be curious. Jeff has the country to the east called Paradise, and he will ask, will the not caste system members have different tasting legs?
It's hard to tell the taste apart when your mouth is full of spears. So
He's,
that
he's probably willing to go ahead and give that a shot.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, full disclosure, yeah, Jeff would probably go there. Oh man.
I would expect nothing less.
Oh yeah.
Oh man. Okay, Frank, tell us about your lore and what you got going.
We're going to go with Char Curry because I love the halflings. But we're going to focus here on the west, near Eusta and this mountain range. There's a story called The Green Man. It's more of a tavern legend. It's been making the rounds near Eusta because that's where it originated. Apparently, several months ago, an explorer had arrived at the Riverside Tavern, totally drenched, looking completely disheveled. And yes, I am kind of reading it because I've already gotten it written up. The male was also incredibly, they want to say intoxicated, but he didn't smell like ale. So they aren't exactly sure if he was using illegal narcotics or some kind of tainted rum or whatever. And the tale he told was almost beyond belief, but he possesses, or possessed at the time, a piece of evidence to back up his claim. And it is referred to as the legend of the Green Man. This adventurer, self-proclaimed, called himself Johann McBride, a Commander McBride, in the Royal Navy across the sea somewhere. Nobody could ever really nail him down on that. He had learned of some information that the ruins near Jubilor, he didn't know Char Curry, held great wealth and great magic. So he bravely crossed this big sea, landed at Pentucci, and went into the, or I'm sorry, he landed at Unity, crossed the frontier, and went into the mountains to search. He had brought with him a great deal of money, so he brought porters and local guides to go ahead and go in here, even though nobody really knew the layout of the mountains. And as he told it, after several weeks, he came into a mountain crevice filled with lines of stone kings, apparently, leading to an interior fortress carved out of the mountains. He stated that, where am I? He stated after working the locks and finding more than a few traps that caused the lives of several of his people, entry was gained into this mountain stronghold. It was his impression that it was some type of fortress or stronghold rather than an empty hall or a temple. It was quite dark and filled with creatures of the darkness, as this inebriated individual was telling people. And as they went deeper into this mountain, his numbers continued to dwindle due to traps, carnivorous creatures, and things that go bump in the night. Let's see, this is the important part. He discovered an enormous cavern ringed by moving water, and on the opposite side of this torrent that cut straight across, think of a no symbol, there was a 50-foot tall green man bathed in magical light. They constructed a rudimentary bridge, and as the group crossed over and began to examine the item, they noted that it seemed to be solid copper, hence the green coloring. And it would be worth a king's fortune if it was somehow broken up and transported out. As they inspected the statue closer, black tentacles came up out of the water and began to pick off the last of the porters. He quickly snapped off a piece of this statue using his weapons and ran for the hills. Unfortunately, his path was blocked by the rudimentary bridge, and the creatures of the night dismantled its moorings, sending him into the raging torrent, into a dark cavern. Think Epcot Center or something of that ilk. He then went over a waterfall, nearly crushing his skull against a variety of stones, and finally ended up drifting slowly down the Lazy Divide River to where he landed at Eusta, spitting up water, and his current intoxicated state. They asked him how much he had had to drink, and he surmised that he must have been hit with poison darts by the creatures of the night. As he gave this recitation, nobody in their right mind felt that a 50-foot tall copper statue was even remotely possible, especially in the Beltorian ruins. And he began to get catcalled and called out by the individuals. They threw stuff at him, called him a wanker, and most of the opinions were that he was full of crap, he was obviously drunk, and there was no way that a 50-foot tall copper statue exists in these mountains that have been somewhat picked over. There's still a lot of mysteries in the Beltorian ruins, but, you know, the crowd here in Eusta feels that he's full of shit. He then produced out of his pants a 12-inch cylindrical item and flopped it out onto the bar, making a clanging noise.
We got the warning on this one, right? About
a floppy clang.
Okay.
Well, he flopped it out and it clanged.
Clanged. Okay.
I think
floppy clanger.
We all understand this. As everybody kind of leaned in and looked, there were etchings in this cylindrical object, and it made it look like a toenail. And he was queried by the tavern patrons, is that what it is? And he said, this is it. So it was kind of stringy there at the end where he had chopped it off, but you know, if he's telling the truth, this green man is still buried in some mountain region and is worth a small fortune. After a round of drinks was purchased, he clandestinely made his way to the bathroom with the toe and disappeared into the night, never to be seen from again. That did not stop the story of the Green Man tale going medieval viral, however you want to put that.
Right.
And now everybody in every tavern in Eusta is gearing up to head west into the mountains to find this alleged great store of wealth. Hence,
Wow.
Legend of the Green Man.
Wow. Head west, young man. So,
I
okay.
fully expected, when you said Green Man, I thought that was going to go a completely different direction.
Yeah, I thought so too. It was just
then inebriated. I was like, what type of green are we talking about?
yeah.
Nope. This is copper. So the folks at the
Okay.
Red Rooster Tavern swear by this story, even though both the Commander McBragg, if you're old, you get that joke. Commander McBragg and the missing green toe are in the wind.
Wow. Well.
Questions?
Well.
Wait.
Yeah. How large was his party that he started out with when he left?
20.
What, it was
20
20?
men.
Got it.
Can you hear Commander McBragg's voice?
Mhm.
20 men started out
Where did you say the toenail is now?
with Commander McBragg.
Okay. I was just thinking of the tavern in, I think it was in Alaska, that has the dead man's toe.
Yep.
And I was just thinking, like, that would be great. You just have, like, this giant, like, 12-inch copper toenail
I
sticking
thought about
out.
making it a pull for the ale, but I figured it would get stolen by adventurers if I left it in the bar. So
It could
Probably.
be a replica.
although I could leave it in there, and your mission, if you choose to accept it, is
To pick
go,
the toenail.
go into the Red Rooster Tavern and go get that thing that was tucked away in Commander McBragg's pants, don't you know?
You could always make the Red Rooster like the yawning portal, where it's just interesting objects all over the place.
Well, there's probably a reason why I chose the word rooster for this one.
Yeah.
If the tavern has like crazy stuff everywhere, is it like Joe's Crab Shack or Cracker Barrel or like TGI Fridays? It's just like, here's another
Probably,
priceless
that's the
relic.
only- that is the
Got a
only
green. It's got a green toenail one place. Got a stone eye somewhere else. You know.
The funny thing is, like, all of them were like absolutely fake relics, except for like one like extremely deadly artifact. It's like nailed to the wall next to like a Chips 5 pence on Fridays sign.
Just a
or
single
something.
page from from like the Book of Ultimate Evil, just sitting there. If you can read it, you're screwed.
Karatu, Fanata.
Nickel.
Exactly.
I was thinking there's like a little miniature version of like the Devil Green Man Nowls from Tomb of Horrors.
Tomb of Horrors, yeah.
Yeah.
That's where you get the beer. You got to reach in to get your free beer. Uh-oh.
Oh.
Damn it.
It requires a sacrifice.
Yeah, I suppose I could flesh out the Red Rooster Tavern because Horace Langston is the owner-operator. And
Have we? Sorry, I had a question.
Sure.
Which was, have we fleshed out what is under most of Socium? Because we're thinking of like, creatures of the shadows, right? And
Right.
poisons. My mind immediately goes to certain creatures of the Underdark, right?
Well,
Certain.
yes. Since this one is in rather close proximity to you guys, I figured I would bring in tentacles.
I'm a fan. I'm a fan of the tentacles.
So,
Edvard.
but
It does.
It's right there. I mean, you've got to have a lot of cave systems there, especially with the dormant volcanoes. So
True.
At some point, we do need to decide if there is an Underdark that runs consistently through.
I have not on the Western countries. The only under I have are the caverns that the dwarves used to escape from the humanoid invasion of Yurgos, and they crossed over the Bafo Strait to Melsk. But that's the only Underdark I've done. I do have a dungeon right here on the A of Charcuterie.
Got it.
I keep wanting to thank charcuterie. Sorry.
But yeah, that is the Green Man tale.
Nice.
Lovely.
Anything
Lovely.
else?
Love it.
Back to you.
No, that's it. So great. Then heads up our lore segment of the evening, so we can start diving into legends. So legend, whether this is a particular person that it amounts to, or just some kind of story. I would imagine a legend would be kind of like the tale that Frank told about the Green Man told.
I half-assed my project, David.
We all do, Frank. That's kind of how we work.
half-ass it.
That's how it goes. Yeah, mine was first a bit of a legend. I took this kind of like both ways. It's all good.
That's all right. Well, let's start again. It's just like, so Spencer, you want to tell us what you got
Wait,
for your
what
legend?
about you? Oh, no, sorry.
No,
never mind. Sorry.
It's not me. I'm just the host.
I know. Host with the most.
Well, I can do a bit of a shorter stuff. So I'll talk about in terms of a story, right? A legend. So in Kaizen, there are many legends of the titular hero, Kaizen himself, Kaizen the Great. And he is the once again, for those who aren't, for new listeners or those who may have forgotten, because it's been a month, it's been a while. Kaizen is the mountainous region commanded by the goblinoids. So it is goblins, hobgoblins, and bugbears control the space. They are freed of their shackles of bondage from the great captors that controlled them, when they may or may not have incidentally freed some sort of eldritch horror that now lives in the volcano. Hand wave that part. That doesn't matter. But so Kaizen has a lot of stories about him. He and his followers that brought about this great revolution have a number of tales about their exploits. And one of the things that they discuss is their deals with the gods, the many gods of Dragon Claw Mountains, or the deal with dragons. So soon after freeing Kaizen and the calamity that took place, the goblinoids of Kaizen had no place to go. They only had this small lands to live in, and it wasn't enough space. They needed more space. So they began to tunnel into the mountains to live as they had before underneath the rocks. But they quickly came into conflict with all the different creatures that lived on the mountains. We're talking ogres and ogre mages, the Oni, if you will, the dragons, the wyverns, the rocks, the great creatures and monsters that live all across the mountaintops. Kaizen fought with each of these gods, each of these monsters that were venerated by the goblinoids, that they once worshipped or gave sacrifices to, and fought each one to a standstill, defeating them on top of their own peaks. But he showed them mercy, and instead of slaying them and conquering their mountain, made them a deal that they could live and they would be given praise if they would protect the mountain and protect the people that lived in its shadow, either physically underneath it or around it. So this was obviously quite easy for those mountains that were low-lying mountains controlled by the ogres and the Ettins, the two-headed giants. But as he went to higher and higher peaks, it got harder and harder, and his legend only grew until finally he was fighting the ancient red dragon that controlled the highest of peaks. And still, Kaizen, in his greatness, in his fortitude, was able to fight the dragon to a standstill with his party, with his compatriots, and made the same deal as before. Even though the great worm was expecting to be slain, made the agreement that he would instead protect the mountain and protect the people around it. So today, the entire mountaintops of Kaizen are sacred spaces that no one dare walk, but they are protected by each a god, our own defender, who holds it as their own domain and then protects the goblins and hobgoblins and bugbears that live in the caverns below it and in the valleys that are shadowed by each mountain.
The dragon itself, the great worm,
Yes.
is it a deity or a demigod kind of like creature, or
Just the oldest of ancient red worms that lives in the highest of mountains. That is not Mount Kairos itself, because that mountain is protected by something else.
Okay. All right. Man, okay. That's interesting. Yeah, Kaizen is, yeah.
Now, this is the lore. These are the
It's
legends that
lore.
are told to the young goblinoids, to the small goblin children, to keep
Yeah.
them in line, to respect the space of the mountains and not to go too high up,
Gotcha. So,
lest they be devoured by one of the protectors, because they still get hungry. Come on.
of course. You never know when a protector needs a snack or something like that.
Exactly. You don't want to tempt the gods.
Yep. So awesome. Well, thank you, Spencer. That was awesome. I enjoyed that. Ian, what you got for us?
All right. So I touched a little bit about this on one of the last shows, but kind of going a little bit further into it. So as a recap, Scorned Isle was part involved in a little bit of Kaizen's history and lore. We've kind of hashed that out. One of the things that's interesting about this island is having suffered a cataclysmic destruction that destroyed most of the landmass and leaving this a very damaged and scarred land filled with ruins and lots of lasting devastation. One of the new bits of lore that's coming on this island, because it's basically a Tabitha Raza by fire. So the known history of this place has basically been wiped off the face of the Socium. And actually, Frank, what is the name of the globe? Like, what do we call this?
I just went with the Socium continent.
No, I know, but this is more than a continent. I'm talking about the globe. It's not like Earth. It's not. It's like
You know what? After all the years and 6 continents, I have never given the overall world a name. It's got to be like Frankian.
Frankia. There you go.
But yeah, I've never named the globe. I actually have a GIF of the globe, but I've never named it.
Nice.
awesome. Well, insert
Again,
circular
half-assed,
planetoid
half-assed.
reference name placeholder here. We'll do it in post edit. We'll just put the no. So the people that have started to make the latest iteration of the attempts of a colony or attempts of settlements here in the region of Newport talk about this figure that some people take as a actual literal essence and other people taking as metaphorical, but the lament. There is a perpetual sadness or pervasive feeling of loss and longing that permeates this place, from the ash-walking revenant zombie-like creatures that come out at night to drag people beneath the acidic waters of the mosses or of the bogs and the heaths, to just the depression that seems to be prevalent. The term that this has been given is the lament, and people who claim to see the lament report it to be a robed figure, like usually dark robes. Sometimes it's a thin silhouette, sometimes it's a larger, taller, brutish silhouette. But people have this superstition about it that if it's not kept at bay, terrible calamity will befall you, or you may be afflicted with the sadness, which is just our understanding of depression, but this seeing having maybe a supernatural effect. There's no real concise mythos about this or canon, but you can see that it's beginning to build as there are nascent cults being formed in the underbelly of Newport that are kind of venerating this figure. Some doing it as a way of to protect themselves from the effects of this thing or force, or some that worship it as a way to bid and wish ill upon others. Usually the things used to invoke or reward it are objects associated with loss and longing and destruction. So someone who survived the shipwreck, dealing with the survivorship guilt or the bad luck that comes for that, may have a piece of their shipwreck that is used in an altar, or maybe whittled down and kept as either an amulet or a talisman, depending on your views, to invoke or ward off the creature. But it's something that has not been officially denounced or acknowledged by, again, the very nascent government of Newport, but it's something that's coming to a head, and if it isn't controlled, could spawn a little bit out of control. The more losses that are suffered by the colony, either by ships that are being suffered by pirate attacks, or just losses in the sea, or the raids that are caused by those strange zombie-like creatures, all that is being attributed to the lament. Part of the lament, too, is the sound of the wind going through the constant plane of ruins, that going through the windows, the underground holes, everything kind of gives that low moaning and gives credence to the lament.
I was going to ask that. Now, you keep saying spawning and stuff like that. The lament itself, all the sorrow and all that, is it going to like spawn like a monstrosity or something? Or how is...
Well, see, that's a very good point. Is depending how we want to really make the materials, we could leave that be open-ended for a GM to interpret, which would be, I think, would be, sometimes I like that in books because it gives a GM freeform, especially if they don't have a lot of feeling of agency as a GM.
Sure.
Although I can see times where people feel like that might be like a cheap cop-out to not actually define it. I like the concept of it being right here on the cusp, that if it's not already real, then in a tulpa-like sense that people's belief could make it into being, or perhaps it is the zeitgeist of all the psychic residual energy from the almost complete 99.9% repeating loss of the original people of this place, that it's that psychic manifestation of the feeling of loss and pain and untimely death. So
Yeah, I like that. It's kind of got that psychological tension building around the area and
The
stuff like that.
the negative psychic energy has like created a rift, and it's the question is the rift growing? Is it solidifying? Is it like finally becoming a thing? And I like the idea of the manifestations, right? Because like if people begin to worship it, then yeah, it's gonna be a thing.
because there's definitely a lot of negative energy in the plane for the fact that there was the presence of a terrible outsider eldritch thing. The fact that it brought devastation in the world, that itself contaminated, and that's part of the rehabilitation project by the Secret Cabal of Druids, is also to remove that taint, that sin from the island.
Yeah, try to get rid of it.
Yeah.
The more people, and that's part of the reason why the Druids are trying to scare people off as well, because the more people that are there that are susceptible to whatever it is could also bring it forth before it's, before they can contain it.
Gotcha. I love it. I love the Scorn Isle. I think it's a great concept. Yeah, that's awesome.
Full of scorn, full of sadness, full of lament.
Have the people near the lament bothered to go ahead and explore, or is the noise enough to keep them away? Because I'm getting a whole Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves vibe with the bandits living there and scaring people off.
Well, it's so there is plunder to be had, but part of the challenge of this area is that within the ruins of this place, that there are those ash-walking like zombies. So think about people that perished in the cataclysm of Pompeii. That those mummified ash forms basically make them mobile and full of just mindless hate. So you could try to plumb these ruins for stuff, and people do. That's actually what brought people to the island in the first place, is, hey, ruins, gotta have good stuff. And then they're dragged down into the moors and then drowned, or they're just beaten to death by, giant ashy fists. But yeah, sure, go ahead, Frank. Go ahead. There's good stuff in the basement. Go for it.
Nice.
No guts, no glory.
Exactly. So speaking of guts and glory, what you got for your legend, sir?
Okay, I think we're all old enough to remember and or understand Sesame Street.
What's a Rolodex?
Yeah.
What do you mean by burning a CD?
Exactly. What do you mean you had to use a tape to get your...
I can copy songs from the radio on my tape deck?
Really? What is a mixtape?
Yeah. But we all probably remember Mr. Snuffleupagus, the giant mastodon, the furry one. Well, in Osmana, land of the forest gnomes, there is a legendary or lorish creature known as the Schnozzle. This thing is similar to Mr. Snuffleupagus, only it has more salamander-esque qualities. It does not have the heavy, woolly coat. It can actually bend and change itself into a variety of weird yoga poses because it lives deep in the crevices of the Carpathian Mountains, allegedly.
Question: when you say salamander, are you mean like the newt-like creature from terrestrial Earth, or are you talking about salamander from D&D lore, breathing fire, lizardy,
terrestrial Earth?
Okay, I thought so. I just wanted to make sure.
Only it's 6 foot to 10 feet long, and its nose is a little bit more serrated, similar to, say, I think it's called a saw-nosed shark.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and this thing is voracious. It likes to pick off travelers, pick off bunnies, small woodland creatures. It despises large groups of populations. Hence, if the parents, like Spencer's group, if the parents want to scare the kids, they always tell them that a schnozzle is nearby. This thing can even trumpet with its saw-dimensional nose.
Wow.
They live about 50 years, and they mate every 10 years. The females will immediately vacate the area of the male and give birth to up to 100 live baby schnozzles deep within the bowels of the Carpathians. Now, that far deep, usually the mother is in no shape to get to an area that would be a nice place to live. So at times, these pregnant females will find a crevice that has no moisture and no food, and they are quite exhausted after giving birth, and the young will actually have to feast on their mother in order to survive. Because they are 6 to 10 feet long and the little schnozzles are small, they can do that for several months before they go through the cracks and the crevices and go on out. The trumpeting noise made by their schnozzles can be quite deafening and exceptionally disconcerting. I'm thinking I'm going to go with a fear factor there, not Joe Rogan, but a real fear factor. They
can they play it like with the ridges? Can there be like holes in different ridges, and they can like use prehensile on?
See, funny you should mention that, because down here I have some famous bards claim to have made guitars or ukuleles out of these petrified schnozzes, and they have wrapped their cat gut around it. So yeah,
there we go.
Okay.
So yeah, it has to have some kind of quality to find.
What is the sound that it makes when it trumpets through?
It's a twanging,
horn?
baby. It's a twanging. Remember, Osmana is the land of your cousin's gotta be good enough for you.
No, when the creature
Sounds
while it's
like
alive
banjo.
trumpets through its schnoz, you said that it can trumpet.
Yes, it is a loud, blaring noise that causes fear and disconcerting vibrations.
Wah, 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 wah. No, I was actually kind of hoping it sounded like chainsaws revving.
Yeah, that's
No,
what
I was thinking
hoping
closer
too.
to thinking to it closer to a vuvuzela.
Yeah, that would work.
And and it also has black pincers around the mouth. So
This thing keeps getting worse.
yeah, so it can trumpet, it can ensnare, and then it will drag you back to its mandibles. The parents of misbehaving children like to say that, careful boy, the schnozzle will suck your brains out. So I'm guessing I was watching Starship Troopers when I wrote this one.
Nice.
But the lack
It's
of
afraid.
information on
NPH.
on the creatures do not dissuade from the possibility. In truth, the schnozzle uses its pincers to hold a victim, while the nose extension sucks the moisture out of the victims, leaving behind a desiccated corpse.
Wow.
Wow.
I would like to learn more.
Now, normally, when there are legitimate reported sightings, and we'll say legitimate in quotes, the military will be called in, but none have been successfully found aside from bards who romanticized their capture and killing with their precious loot. So,
Wow.
UTE. But yes. Let's see. Elder members of the familial clans purport a regional defense against the creatures. The smearing of tree sap onto exposed flesh is said to be a deterrent. The yokels believe that the creature may not like the sugary syrup and refrains from attacking those covered in it. So, boys and girls, if you're going to go looking for a schnozzle, it's best to slather maple syrup all over your body to go ahead and protect you.
The schnozzle is on the keto diet. Avoids all sugar.
Are there schnozberries in the forest?
You know, I was going to put that in there. And that's what they subsist on.
Or is that like the eggs or like genitalia in as much as like Rocky Mountain oyster? Like, if there are harvestable products.
Schnozberries.
Yeah.
You can kiss my schnozberries.
And that's why the schnozberries taste like
schnozberries.
There's no other.
Yeah.
Yeah, I may have
Nothing else quite like it.
Yeah, I may have been drinking when I wrote this one.
I'd be surprised if you
guessed.
weren't.
Yeah. Also, I don't know if it went through in chat, but it is episode 99 of BTR, and you go to about the 34-minute mark when Kyle decides to be a smartass and goes, "See, it smells great."
I don't see it in the. Well, I guess I haven't been on the YouTube, so I'll need to look that up.
I don't know if it's there. I'll post it to Twitter, but yes, episode 99 of BTR, 34.
The Twitter that isn't banned, right?
It's what?
The Twitter that isn't banned, right?
The Twitter that has not been banished.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know, Marjorie Taylor Greene's a cunt.
Oh, and there we go. We're kicked off of YouTube.
Yeah, so,
yeah.
Actually, that's not what I said at all. That time.
You'll deny it.
That comment
Said
was fine.
she's an aunt. Aunt.
Yeah.
Someone's
That's
aunt.
it.
You put an asterisk in one of the letter spots.
Aunt.
But yes, it is on the YouTube comments. But BTR, episode 99, fast forward into 34 minutes, and Kyle chokes to death for about 6 of it.
No,
he
man.
actually has to spit up in his waste can, so it's really funny.
God.
Good times.
Yeah,
Good times.
because his was, I think he got putrid sewers, which
He
is
did.
nasty. That's what you put in your boss's air vents. So,
Nice.
but that's all I
Well,
got for that.
I still think about the time that they lovingly donated a lot to HoosierCon one year, and I was working sorting bags and volunteer swag and giving out swag, and then just the sheer amount of exposure that I had to the welcoming in. So everything of mine just smelt like warm beef stew. So like being sleep deprived, like surviving on nothing but caffeine for like 4 days, and everything smelling like beef stew. Like I was just like,
if you wash your hands, Ian.
once a year is good enough for me. If it's good enough for our senators, actually, it was like, what, 10 years for that one senator?
Yeah.
Oh,
Ian is part of Osmana.
Osmosis. I just
nice.
Touch everything.
Oh, man. Well, thank you guys. That was great, for our Socium project tonight. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And we're going to go ahead and wrap up this puppy. I want to thank our sponsors, Oddfish Games. They got their great RPGs, Adventure Sense. Don't huff them.
huff that stuff. Huff that stuff.
This is pirate
we have
ship,
that.
so it won't be that bad.
Great dice to be made, from Pirate Dog Dice. And come buy our stuff. That's tinyurl.com/RPG swag. So, yeah. Yes. If you want to follow us on Discord, we have a Discord server. There should be information in that below. And then follow us on Twitter. Like you said, Frank hasn't gotten Hobo Inc.
He has 500 books for sale.
Yes.
He counted them right before the show.
No, it's right there on the publications, 500.
It is. So, but that's it for tonight, folks. Thank you for tuning in, and let's give them the big dating game kiss and away. Bye, everybody.